Right now, somewhere in your home, there may be a small animal lying in a patch of sun, fed, safe, completely at ease, and almost completely wild. Because that is what a cat is. Look past the soft fur and the silly name you gave it, and you are looking at a hunter that is barely changed from a wild predator of the North African desert. Same body, same instincts, same cool, untouchable mind. And in the last couple of years, scientists pulled apart the DNA of dozens of ancient cats and discovered something strange. Almost everything we thought we knew about how that animal got into your house was wrong. Here is the version you have probably heard. 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, humans invented farming. We stored grain. The grain drew mice, the mice drew wildcats, and the boldest of those cats moved in and never left. Cats have been with us, we said, since the very beginning of civilization. And there was a perfect piece of evidence for it. On the island of Cyprus, archaeologists found a grave more than 9,000 years old, a human, buried with care, and laid beside them on purpose in its own little grave was a cat. It was a beautiful story, the oldest pet in the world. Then somebody sequenced it. Because until recently, this whole story rested on a partial reading of the DNA. Scientists could only recover the genes passed down the mother's line, which is a thin slice of the picture. Then a team led by Claudio Ottni went back with modern methods and read the full genome of 87 ancient cats from across Europe and Turkey, spanning almost 10,000 years. And the famous cat of Cyprus turned out not to be your cat's ancestor at all. It was a European wildcat, a different animal, bigger, more solid, and not closely related to the house cat at all. Somebody did bury it with a person 9,000 years ago, and we still do not fully know why, but it was not a pet, and it was not the beginning of anything. And it got stranger. The team looked at every ancient cat they could find in Europe, and every single one dated before roughly 200 BC came back the same way. Wildcats, European wildcats, not one house cat among them. The cat had not been living in Europe since the dawn of farming. For almost all of that time, it simply was not there. The real story starts further south in North Africa with an animal called the African wildcat. Lean, sandy, striped, solitary, and still out there in the wild today. Put one next to the cat on your sofa and you would struggle to tell them apart. That is the ancestor. That part we got right. And the mechanism we got right too. It just happened somewhere else and much later than we thought. Because wherever humans store grain, mice follow. And the granaries of North Africa and the Nile were the richest hunting ground a small desert predator had ever seen. Prey, concentrated night after night and stalked by somebody else. Now here is the part almost nobody understands. Nobody is taming these cats. Nobody is breeding them. There is no clever farmer with a plan. There is only a filter. Most wildcats are far too nervous to stay near people. The noise, the smell, the movement, it sends them bolting back into the dark as any sane wild animal would. But cats are not all the same. In every litter, a few are born a little bolder, a little calmer, a little slower to run. And those few can do something the others cannot. They can stand to live beside us, right there at the edge of the settlement, hunting an endless supply of mice. They eat better, they survive. They raise kittens, and those kittens inherit the one thing that mattered in their parents, a little less fear of us. Season after season, the same quiet filter runs. Panic gets you nothing, calm gets you fed. Evolution is doing the taming, no human hand required, and it asks only one question over and over. Can you bear to live beside a human? The cats that answered yes moved in. And in Egypt, that answer was returned with interest. By around 3,500 years ago, cats are all over Egyptian art, sitting under chairs, curled at the feet of their people, unmistakably living in homes. And then the Egyptians did something no other culture has ever done for an animal on that scale. They made it holy. The cat became a goddess, and when the great animal cults were running, cats were mummified and offered to her in numbers that are difficult to take in. At one site alone, Beni Hassan, a farmer digging in the desert struck a seam of them. Around 180,000 mummified cats were shipped to England and sold off by the ton to be ground up as fertilizer. Hundreds of thousands have been dug out of the ground. There were probably millions. And then only about 2,000 years ago, the cat finally goes global. It moves out of Africa across the Mediterranean and into Europe. The earliest one the geneticists can confirm turns up on the island of Sardinia, and the timing points at an obvious suspect because this is the age of ships, ports, grain fleets, and legions. Rome moved food across an empire, and where the grain went, the mice went, and where the mice went, somebody was very glad to have a cat aboard. The cat conquered Europe as cargo, which leaves us with something genuinely surprising. your cat is not an ancient companion at all. Think about the dog. The dog has been at our side for 20,000 years, since the Ice Age, since before farming, before villages, before writing. 20,000 years of us shaping it, until we had bent a wolf into a border collie. The cat has been in Europe for about 2,000. When the first house cats stepped ashore, the pyramids were already ancient and the Colosseum was already standing. And that changes how you should read the animal in front of you. We have had roughly a tenth of the time with cats that we have had with dogs, and for most of that time, nobody was breeding them for anything at all. They were simply useful, and they were left alone to get on with it. So the cat never got reshaped. The dog was rebuilt by our friendship right down to its bones, floppy ears, a shorter face, a body designed to please us. The cat kept its body, kept its hunt, kept its mind. Of every creature that lives in our homes, the cat is the one that never really surrendered. Now we know part of the reason. It has barely had the time. And yet quietly in that short window, it learned to reach inside us anyway. Take the meow. Out in the wild, grown cats almost never use it. A kitten cries to its mother and then it grows up and goes quiet and talks to other cats with scent and posture instead. But your cat never grew out of it. It meows its whole life and it aims that sound at exactly one species on this planet, you. It kept a baby's call and pointed it at the only animal soft enough to come running. And then there is the purr. Researchers recorded cats purring for their dinner and found something hidden inside the sound. Buried in that low, warm rumble was a second, higher voice, sitting up in the same range as a crying infant. They played the recordings to people who had never owned a cat, and even those people heard it as more urgent and less pleasant. Strip that hidden voice out of the recording and the urgency drains away. So when your cat curls up and purrs at you for its food, it is not only content. It is reaching for a button that was installed in you long before you were even human, and pressing it. So the next time a cat walks through your home like it owns the place, stop for a second and look at what is actually there. Not an animal we tamed, not an ancient servant of civilization. You are looking at a small desert hunter that followed our mice out of North Africa, rode our ships into Europe about 2,000 years ago, moved into our houses, and then quietly declined to change. We never conquered the cat. We are not really sure we have finished domesticating it. We offered it mice and warmth and a place by the fire, and a wild thing looked at the deal and chose to stay, chose to purr, chose in its own cool way to keep us without ever once agreeing to obey. You don't own your cat is a guest who liked the room. And every morning it decides, all over again, to stay. I blame evolution. If there is a cat ignoring you in the room right now, tell it a stranger from the internet said hello. It will not care in the slightest, and maybe hit subscribe. Some small, warm, ancient part of you already wants to.